Hi everyone, my name is Marc Bates. I'm a metabolic health coach, and this is another of my question and answer series. This one's biology over belief, personalized metabolic coaching for better health. All right, let's get to the question that started this. Your approach of biology over belief really captures the essence of personalized metabolic coaching. I'm thinking about the broader implications of what we've discussed. If lectin sensitivity represents this hidden driver of metabolic dysfunction that conventional medicine largely overlooks, what do you see as the most critical knowledge gaps that need to be addressed in both clinical practice and public health messaging around nutrition? Wow, that was a powerful and important question. And the answer, I believe, lies at the intersection of clinical humility, scientific courage, and public health reform. If lectin sensitivity is indeed a hidden driver, and the data, experience, and biology strongly suggest that it is, then we're long overdue for a seismic shift in how we talk about food, health, and healing. Here's how I see the most critical knowledge gap that must be addressed. 1. The fallacy of nutritional universality. Yeah, what's healthy for the average isn't healthy for the individual. Think about that, right? The current paradigm assumes one-size-fits-all dietary recommendations, like eat more fiber, choose whole grains, or plant-based diet is best. This ignores the massive inter-individual variation in gut permeability, immune reaction, metabolic flexibility, and mitochondrial capacity. Public health messaging must shift from universal prescriptions to personalized strategies, especially for metabolically compromised individuals. Okay? Neglect of molecular food biology. Most clinicians and dietitians are not trained to understand lectins as biologically active proteins, not inert calories. This goes for a lot of other plant proteins and plant issues, right? Plants compounds that bind receptors, mimic hormones, and modulate gene expression. The role of anti-nutrients in micronutrient malabsorption, gut barrier damage, and chronic inflammation. Lectins are not just a fiber issue, they are metabolic disruptors with pharmaceutical level potency in sensitive individuals. We must bring food biochemistry back into medical education, not just calories, but signaling molecules as well. Okay? 3. The glorification of plants without scrutiny. The plant-based equals automatically healthy narrative is uncritically embedded in school lunch programs, medical curriculum, hospital meals, and the USDA dietary guidelines. This messaging overlooks how whole grains and legumes drive insulin resistance in many of our population, okay? How polyphenols and lectins can impair mitochondrial function or gut health. How evolutionary novel foods like wheat have long-term safety data have no long-term safety data in modern quantities. Now, let me put that into perspective. Wheat as a major commodity item that we eat, probably about only 10,000 years. Okay, recorded, about the time of recorded history. But the wheat that we're eating today, and if you're buying anything at the grocery store, odds are 90% or better that it's red dwarf wheat. Okay, has only been around for a few years. And red dwarf wheat was developed, I think, about 40 years ago, I believe. And it has taken over all wheat production. But there are hundreds and thousands of proteins and other molecular items in red dwarf wheat that we have never been exposed to as humans. And you wonder why there's this sudden shift uptake in all of these chronic diseases. Could it just be we're not adapted to the food that they're trying to feed us? And before red dwarf wheat, we had regular wheat, and if you're like me, you grew up singing about the prairies and the golden wheat growing as high as you can see, right? And not anymore. That wheat's all gone. And before that wheat came about, there was other types of wheats. And the wheat that our ancestors probably started with was a wild wheat called acorn wheat, which had very few wheat proteins in it, had almost no gluten in comparison to modern wheat, right? Produced a very hard, non-fluffy bread, and the records we have, going back to the ancient Egyptians, is that they suffered from the same chronic diseases that we suffer today because their diet was predominantly wheat. It was this acorn wheat that was, even though it's 100% healthier than anything we can buy at the grocery store today, it was still bad for them. And and all the X-rays done and MRIs done on the mummies and stuff show that they had all the problems of modern people. They had arthritis. They had cancers. They were shorter than the rest of the ancient Near East people. They were up to 3 inches shorter than the average person in the rest of the ancient Near East, right? They had diabetes. They had cavities, dental cavities and stuff. I mean, it's like they just had everything we have. They had, and they were known as bread eaters, right? And everyone else was eating, meat from grazed animals. So you wonder, I can't prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the ancient Egyptians were sick because they ate wheat, but God, it sure sounds like it, right? It sure does sound like it. So maybe it's time to separate real science from nutritional orthodoxy. Okay, failure to integrate biomarkers with symptoms. Conventional care often dismisses patients because their labs are normal. A CGM, a continuous glucose monitor, shows that your average blood sugar was at 90 milligrams per deciliter, considered beautifully normal, but you still feel dizzy and fatigued. Well, something's wrong, okay? Your A1C is at 5.4%. Oh, God, most doctors would love to have their patients get a 5.4%, right? But their fasting insulin is still 18, which is exceptionally high. Why? Why is the fasting insulin high? They're told to just eat more fiber. But bloating, inflammation, and brain fog worsen. No, we need a diagnostic model that correlates tissue level dysfunction and biochemical nuance, not just population averages. Okay? 5. There's a lack of an exit ramp from failed guidelines. Patients feel trapped. You go to your doctor, you feel trapped, right? You followed the rules, you're still getting sicker, and you're ashamed that you're getting sicker, right? So everyone in health must offer you to help you out a biologically coherent explanation. It's not your fault, right? The fact that you're getting fatter is not your fault. It's the food that you're eating, and that it's built to make you crave it. That's why you're always hungry. That's why you're overeating it, okay? It's scientifically built. The people who used to sell you cigarettes and engineered the cigarettes to make you addicted to the cigarettes, well, all those people are now in the food industry. And they took their scientists and they moved them over to the food industry. And now you wonder why you crave all the sugars and the sweets and the chips and everything else that they're producing? As those scientists have figured out the correct mixture of bad fats, lots of sugar, and salt, and how much of each to put into every item to make you become addicted to it. All modern food, especially the ultra processed ones, the ones that come in bags and boxes and stuff, they're designed to make you addicted. It's not your fault. You need science-backed alternatives. Right? We can eliminate lectin. We can go carnivore. Carnivore is science proven as being an effective elimination diet. Okay? I still think it's a long-term diet. It's the one that archaeologically has proven to be correct for the human beings. But hey, you know what? I'll just call it an elimination diet. But that's been proven. Low carb, high fat, right? Ketogenic diets. Those are proven. Multiple and they're just more and more coming. Prove ketogenic diets help people. Okay? You need permission to trust your body over what the USDA tells you. Remember, you are the CEO of your own health. Trust your body, trust how you're feeling. Don't let the USDA guidelines tell you that you should be feeling bad because you're eating red meat. No, you should feel great. Okay? Public health needs a plan B, and metabolic coaching, in my opinion, is that plan. Stick with me. Okay. What needs to change? Bottom line, medical education. Medical education needs to actually understand what is the problems with the food, and especially with the plant foods. What are the problems? What they need to integrate molecular nutrition and immune nutrient interactions. Public messaging needs to shift toward metabolic context and food compatibility, not just calories in, calories out. There's a whole video on that one, and not just what the food companies pay the government to tell you, right? Clinical practice. We need to use tools that we know work. Fasting insulin, CRP, HOMA-IR, and food system correlation, not just the standard blood and cholesterol panels that all the doctors just routinely give you, right? And you, as the CEO of your own health, you need to be empowered, right? So part of my goal here is to teach you biology over belief, right? Teach you why your body operates the way it does, how you can fix it, and things you can do to feel better. Validate the lived experience of hundreds and thousands of other people who are doing the same thing, and the science that backs that up, and the anthropology that shows thousands and thousands of years of human evolutionary design that makes us eat a specific species appropriate diet. Okay? Final thought. In terms of lectin sensitivity, it's not a fringe issue. It's the missing chapter in our modern metabolic story. Remember, lectins are in beans, they're in nightshades, they're in whole grains, they're in a lot of things. So they're all over the average modern diet. So if you're eating anything other than a carnivore diet, you are getting lectins, and that's something to be concerned with. If you don't update the story, patients will keep suffering and following rules written for someone else's biology, not their own. But if we listen to the biology, we can rewrite the narrative of health. One body, one meal, one truth at a time. Okay, everyone, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. If you can, do like, subscribe, share, click the bell if you want to be notified. We got more things coming up. So leave comments. Let me know what you're interested in. Let me do videos that you want to hear. We're a community here, and I'm here to help you. Thank you very much.